They said I was too dramatic to be at my cousin's wedding. I put my phone on silent at 5:40. At 6 p.m., the venue's fire panel would trip and the coordinator would call the one number they didn't know was mine. My cousin Brianna's save the date sat crooked on my fridge under a magnet from a hardware store. I never took it down after Aunt Kim called 2 weeks ago and used the soft voice she keeps for bad news and hair appointments. "Sweetie, we just want a calm evening," she said. "You make things big." Translation: Last Christmas, I pulled a sparkler out of my little cousin's hand before it kissed a curtain. Dramatic stuck to me like glitter. I didn't argue. I said, "Got it," and hung up. Then stared at the yellow permit on my desk. It wasn't for me. It was for the venue. I work in special events, compliance part of the city's fire office that checks exits, max occupancy, and all the boring things that keep nights from becoming stories on the news. The Lakeview Pavilion had emailed me the week before, new drape plan, extra candles, cold spark fountains by the first dance. I wrote back 3 sentences that were basically no in different fonts, no blocked exits, no open flame near fabric, no indoor pyrotechnics without a separate permit. They replied with a smiley face and understood. My phone buzzed that morning. It wasn't family. It was the DJ. "We've worked together on half the ballrooms in the county. Rumor says the planner's bringing the cold sparks anyway," he said. "Also, there's a storm watch. Power's been hiccuping all afternoon." I looked at my on-call calendar. My name was in the Fortune midnight slot. Of course it was. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments about which country you're watching this video from. Enjoy the story. At 5:10, my mum texted, "Please don't make a scene, honey. Let Bree have her moment." At 5:12, Aunt Kim added me back to the group chat just long enough to write, "Do not show up." Then she removed me again, like a magic trick. I packed my go bag, small flashlight, spare radio battery, printed copy of the venue's permit with my notes in red, a roll of blue tape I use to mark safe paths when crowds forget how doors work. I wasn't going to the wedding, I was going to work. On the drive, the sky stacked heavy, a dark lid over the lake. The pavilion's glass walls glowed gold. Through them, I could see Bree's dress like spilled cream, the aisle lined with pillar candles, and my chest went tight fabric swags, drooping over the side exits like clouds that didn't know about fire. At 5:37, I parked by the loading dock where staff, smoke, and secrets collect. The venue manager, Claire, met me with a radio and a look I know too well. "We told them no," she said. "The planner smiled and lit tea lights anyway. And someone just plugged a fog machine into a power strip with the heaters." I signed the log. "We'll do this quietly," I said. "If we can." The rain started like a handful of gravel on the roof. Inside, the DJ faded the song and the crowd cheered for no reason at all. At 5:58, the lobby panel chirped a warning. At 5:59, the lights blinked once. At 6 o'clock, my work phone lit up with the pavilion's number. I answered. "Special events. This is Avery." "Special events. This is Avery." Claire's voice rushed through the line. "Panel shows TRBL on Zone 3. Fog near the east doors. Candles are everywhere. Planner says it's ambience." "I'm on site," I said. "I'll take command until fire arrives. Put a runner at each exit. Crack the east doors 6 inches. Kill the fog machine now." I clipped on my badge, stepped into the lobby, and checked the fire panel. Zone 3, smoke supervisory. Not a full alarm yet. A warning. The DJ saw me and tipped his chin. "They keep relighting the aisle candles," he murmured. "Planner's got cold sparks in 10 minutes. "Not permitted," I said. "If you see a silver remote stall." I walked the room's edge. Pillar candles lined the aisle like a fuse. Fabric swags drooped over the side exits in an elegant, illegal way. A waiter bumped a heater and the power strip clicked. The lights dipped and the crowd clapped like it was cute. "Hi." The planner materialized, smile wept. "Badge is adorable. We're fine. It's just fog. Bride's about to walk." Fog machines off, I said. Open flames off. Drapes up from exits. If we keep it quiet, nobody outside this circle knows. She held the smile. We tested cold sparks. They're safe. Disney uses them. Disney also has a permit, a suppression engineer, and a different ceiling, I said. I showed the paper. My red notes glared. You got told no. Safe isn't legal. Aunt Kim's voice sliced in. Avery, you cannot be here. We said, don't come. I didn't look at her. I pointed to the nearest staffer. Snuff the aisle. Start at the far end. Do not drip wax. To the DJ, bring up house lights, 5%. Avery, Aunt Kim snapped. You're making a scene. Not yet, I said. Help me stop one. The panel chirped again. Zone 3, smoke pre-alarm. Claire's radio crackled. Fogs off. Doors cracked. Candles half out. The planner stepped closer. If you ruin this, she will never forgive you. If I don't, the building might, I said. I turned to a server. Water in metal pitchers, 2 at each exit. Towels. The storm hammered the glass. The lake went a flash out on the water, and the lights blinked down up. The crowd cheered again. Someone near the aisle relit a pillar candle. Wax kissed a hanging drape. The edge-browned dot I moved. 2 steps, 1 grab. I smothered the ember with a folded towel and felt heat chase my knuckles. The brown mark bloomed like a fingerprint and then went still. The DJ's eyes were big. Thank you. Keep the bass low, I said. Vibrations pop detectors. Aunt Kim planted herself in my path. You were uninvited. I'm working, I said. I pointed at the exits again, blue tape in my other hand. This is how I love people. Across the room, Brianna turned at the top of the aisle, bright and beautiful and unaware. The planner hissed into a lapel mic, eyes never leaving me. Her assistant slid a silver remote out of a toter kind that triggers cold spark. Fountains and palmed it like a card trick. The panel beeped. 3, 2. A little bar climbed dot. I caught the assistant's reflection in the window. Thumb hovered. A tiny blue LED winked alive under the head table. I lifted my radio. Claire, lock the floor receptacles at the stage. Now, copy, she said. The assistant pressed nothing. She frowned. Clicked again, harder. Aunt Kim breathed. Good. Like a prayer that wanted me to fail. The panel chirped back to supervisory. Claire's voice came tight in my ear. Stage power isolated. Sparks dead. The planner's smile finally cracked. You had no right. I had a permit, I said. And a storm. The band struck the first chord for the processional. The crowd rose. The candles were out. The exits were clear. The blue tape lines glowed like quiet instructions. I stepped back to the lobby door and watched the panel, steady over the music. The wind pushed the building like a hand. We were safe for the next 5 minutes. And then the sprinkler. Valve room alarm light blinked red, the sprinkler. Valve tamper light blinked red on the panel like a little heartbeat. Claire, I said into the radio, which riser? North, she answered. Door by the cake fridge. I cut behind the bar, past trays and whispers. The riser room smelled like wet metal and old dust. A red wheel valve sat behind a cage, chained through it, padlock snapped open and dangling. The gauge that should read 70 psi hovered at 40. Someone closed this, I said. Claire's eyes went wide. Who would I? Took pictures, chain, lock, gauge. My watch next to the needle. Open to full, I said, turning the wheel until it hit the stop. The gauge climbed slow, 45, 55, 68. The panel on my radio chirped. The tamper light went from red to green. I taped a strip of blue across the wheel and wrote, "Do not touch" in block letters. If that wheel moves again, we evacuate, I said. Copy, Claire said. Already texting her staff. Back in the lobby, the planner's assistant slid a silver remote deeper into his pocket when he saw me. His cuffs were damp to the elbows. He stared past me like walls were more interesting than evidence. The processional music swelled. The crowd stood. Brianna appeared at the top of the aisle, veil like fog, eyes glassy with happy tears. I felt the old ache that comes with family and important dresses and being told to stand. Outside, Aunt Kim drifted to the doorway, took in the badge on my chest, and leaned close. "You are determined to ruin this," she hissed. I kept my voice low. "Someone tried to shut off the sprinklers," she blinked, uncomprehending. "Then leave it. We're fine." "We're fine" is the last sentence people say before my reports get read in court. "Security," I said into the radio. "Collect lighters. All hands. No exceptions." The DJ caught my eye, switched to a quieter track, and raised the house lights one more tiny notch. The candles were out. The exits were open 2 inches and marked. The panel read, "Normal." For a breath, the room held. Outside, the storm slammed the glass hard enough to make the chandeliers tremble. The planner, still smiling for the guests, hissed to her assistant, "Get the drape off the doors. Higher now." He grabbed a 6-foot ladder and hustled to the east wall, the worst choice in the room. The ceiling grid there is tight with sprinkler heads and drop tiles. He leaned the ladder where the fabric pulled near ahead, then climbed, one-handed, with a bundle of clear fishing line and a clip in his teeth. "Not under the grid," I said, moving fast. "Come down, we'll rehang with poles." He either didn't hear me or pretended not to. He reached up and looped the line around a piece of metal that wasn't a pipe hanger. It was the sprinkler pipe. "Stop," I said, right below him. "Hands down now." He tugged to tighten the line. The pipe creaked a sound like a house thinking about a bad idea. The metal hanger flexed. His elbow knocked the sprinkler head's frame, and the tiny glass bulb flashed in the light red, fragile, full dot. My stomach dropped. "Do not touch that head," I said, calm over panic. "Climb down. I will help you." Across the room, Brianna reached the front. The officiant smiled. The crowd sighed. Somebody laughed. A small, relieved sound. The assistant glanced toward the head table, then back to me. Then put one more twist in the line, as if the universe were a stubborn bow. A sharp tick sounded like a BB hitting a window. I looked up. A hairline crack ran across the bulb. A bead of water swelling at its seam. Aunt Kim followed my gaze, confused. What as I lifted my radio? "Claire, kill the zone pump," I said. "We're about to get rain." The bead fattened, trembled, and held for one impossible second. Then a cold drop fell and hit the aisle runner. The bead fell clean and darkened the aisle runner like a period at the end of a sentence. The glass bulb popped with a tiny sound. Then the sprinkler head opened, and the room became rain. A silver cone of water hammered the floor. The alarm jumped from pre-alarm to full. Red strobes pulsed. The band's first violin flinched so hard her bow flew. Guests squealed, some laughing, some not. The planner's smile broke all the way. "House lights up," I told the DJ. He obeyed, calm hands. Music down. Mic to me. He slid me the handheld. I didn't shout. "Folks," I said, steady, letting the PA do the work, "we're going to move quietly to the West Hall for 10 minutes. If you're near an exit, hold the door. If you're near a guest, be a hand. People listen when you don't scream." I pointed, blue-taped lanes already on the floor from earlier. Staff formed a human funnel. 2 servers lifted the hem of Brianna's dress before the water reached it. The officiant shielded the rings with his body like they were gold in a storm. The ladder guy froze on the 4th rung, soaked and guilty. I steadied the ladder with one hand and spoke close so only he heard. "Climb down slowly. Hands on rails. We're not dying on stupid today." He climbed. His wet cuffs dripped like confession. The planner lunged for the stage. "Cover the head table," she shrieked. "Save the flowers." "The cake people first," I said, blocking her with my shoulder. "Stage power is isolated. You won't get lit. Move your hands." Claire's radio crackled in my ear. "FDN route. ETA 3 minutes. Copy," I said. "Open West Hall doors. Towels at the threshold. Shut kitchen hood until we stabilize." Aunt Kim materialized, hair already frizzing, eyes blazing. "You did this," she hissed. "You and your rules." I looked at the broken bulb raining on the empty aisle. "I kept it small," I said. "It could have been bigger." We moved. The guests flowed exactly where the tape wanted them. The West Hall glowed warmer backup space for cocktail hours and bad weather. The manager had already flipped on the uplights. The DJ rolled a speaker through the door like it was a stretcher. Brianna stood shaking in a dry patch, bouquet clutched, mascara holding on out of pure will. I shrugged out of my blazer and draped it over her shoulders. "You're okay," I said. "Take a sip of water. Breathe." Her eyes found mine 1 second of cousin against cousin with the loud parts deleted. "Can we still?" she asked, voice small. "Yes," I said. "Just not in there." Fire engines hissed outside, tires on wet pavement. Boots hit tile. A captain took one look at the sprinkler cone and nodded. "Good catch on the pump," he said to Claire. To me, "You the city." "On call," I said, showing my badge. "Tamper on north valve." We restored. Assistant cracked their head while hanging drape. "I have photos." "Of course you do," he said, like a compliment. He and his crew moved through the east doors, fast and sure. Someone finally killed the fog machine's power at the strip. It whined down like a scolded child. In the West Hall, a hush formed, tight and expectant. The planner hovered, calculating how to salvage dignity in a room with different uplights. Aunt Kim vibrated with accusations that didn't have a target anymore. I lifted the mic again, not asking the DJ this time. "We have a dry room," I said. "We have rings. We have the people who matter." I looked at if the couple would like, we can begin now. A murmur rolled like a small wave. The officiant looked at Brianna. Brianna looked at the door where rain still hissed, then at the faces who followed her here without panic. She nodded once. "Now," she whispered. "Wait." The planner snapped, desperate. The vision is 2 people and a promise," I said. I turned to Claire and dropped my voice. "Text Marco," I said. "Tell him Plan B is live." She blinked. "You actually booked it." "On the drive," I said. "Stormwatch at 4. Parks owed me a favor." Her hand flew to her phone. "Copy." The west doors opened onto the covered veranda that faced the lake. The storm had softened to a silver curtain. Under the awning, the Parks Department had strung battery fairy lights at a community event and never took them down. They glowed like a choice. The fire captain gave us a thumbs up through the glass. "Contained, reset, report later." I looked at Brianna. At the guests, at Aunt Kim, still vibrating. At the planner, out of scripts. "Your call," I said to my cousin, low and private. "West Hall, now, or veranda, in 5. Your moment either way." She breathed once, twice, and then took the bouquet like it belonged to her again. "Veranda," she said. The room shifted toward the doors without a shove. The storm held, then gentled, and the family that said I was too dramatic followed the lines I'd taped. They had no idea what was coming next. The veranda smelled like wet cedar and relief. Fairy lights shook in the wind and then steadied, a soft constellation under the awning. Someone dragged out 2 planters to make an aisle. The DJ rolled a battery speaker to the edge and tested one. Piano note that sounded like a beginning. Brianna took her father's arm. The bouquet looked braver outside. Guests crowded in close, coats over shoulders, cheeks pink from the storm. The officiant cleared his throat and smiled like he was glad to be useful. Inside. Through the glass, red strobes still pulsed over the empty raining ballroom. The fire crew worked the valve and reset panel with slow, confident hands. Aunt Kim hovered at the doorway, damp and angry. "This is chaos," she hissed. "This is not the vision." Brianna glanced back, not at her mother, at me. "Is this safe?" she asked, quiet. "Yes," I said. "No candles. No fog. The only spark is you." She laughed, a small true sound, and nodded to the officiant. He began. The storm softened to background. Vows found their tone, plain words, steady voices. When it came time for rings, The officiant lifted them high like a joke against the rain, and the crowd laughed, the kind of laugh that fixes a room halfway through. The fire captain stepped to the veranda edge and kept his voice low. "City," he said to me. "Quick word, when they're legally married, copy," I whispered. They said I do. The cheer rolled out over the lake and bounced back softer, like the water approved. The pianist pushed two bright chords that felt like lights flipping on inside people. The captain waited until the kiss broke and the clapping covered us. He showed me his tablet photos from Claire's security cam, the planner's assistant at the riser door, hand on the padlock, later, the ladder set under the grid, his cuff catching the sprinkler head. "Tamper and head strike," the captain said. "We'll cite the vendor. Venue's clean. Good work on the pump." "Thanks," I said. They tried to fire the cold sparks to. He lifted a silver remote in a gloved hand. "Found it taped under the head table. Not today." The planner rushed over, smile back on like a bandage. "Captain, we can work something out," she chirped. "We just needed ambience." "What you need," he said, not unkind, "is a permit and better choices." He turned to Claire. "You'll get the report and a copy of the citation." Claire nodded, tired and grateful. Her eyes landed on me. "We don't get to keep you, do we?" "Only for paperwork," I said. Aunt Kim finally found me when the recessional music began. "You humiliated us," she said. "You made it about you." "I kept water on one square of floor instead of the whole building," I said, calm. "I kept your daughter's dress dry. I moved 200 people with a microphone and tape. If I made it about anything, it was about leaving with the people we came with." The anger in her face flickered, then looked like something else. A woman who almost lost a room and didn't notice until it was saved, Brianna, crossed the veranda through a tunnel of raised hands. At the end, she stopped in front of me and put my blazer back on my shoulders like a medal. "Thank you," she said, clear enough that the nearest guests heard and turned their heads. "For being dramatic." Her smile lifted. "The good kind." The planner's assistant slunk by with a towel and a citation in a plastic sleeve. The DJ switched to a slow song. People who swore they never danced swayed anyway, shoes squeaking on damp concrete. Inside, the ballroom strobes went dark. The panel reset to green dot. Claire clinked a glass. "Folks," she called, "we've got dry champagne in the West Hall and pies that survived the storm." Photos on the veranda after cake. Aunt Kim stared at the makeshift aisle, the fairy lights, the faces unbothered by the map change. She finally exhaled. "I didn't want you here because you make things big," she said, not quite looking at me. "Turns out, you knew where to put the bigness." "I put it where it belongs," I said. "On the promise." The captain tipped his helmet, then disappeared back inside. Claire's staff passed out towels like favors. Brianna and her husband cut a cake the wind couldn't blow. And everyone cheered, as if this had been the plan all along. Later, when the storm gentled to mist, I peeled up the last strip of blue tape from the ballroom floor and coiled it into my bag. The broken sprinkler head lay on a cart, quiet now. I photographed it, then covered it with a towel. Some things don't need to be in the album. On my way out, the DJ saluted me with his headphone. "People will remember this," he said. "Good," I said. "For the right reason." The venue's glass walls threw our reflections onto the lakesoft lights, damp hair, a crowd that stayed. I texted the on-call log. Incident contained. Ceremony completed under awning. Citation issued to planner vendor. No injuries. They said I was too dramatic and cut me from the list. At 6 p.m., the panel tripped by 6:45. My cousin was married under rain and fairy lights, the room intact. The story hours. Turns out I didn't need an invitation to do what I came to do. I needed a door that opened and a reason. I had both.